Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays is my good friend, Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew?
Not a lot of scuttlebutt, that's for sure.
No.
It's a little.
What's going on?
I mean,
What is this?
Our team's too tight-lipped, or is there really nothing going on? I don't know.
Keith Smith just had a tweet. He said, in conversation with folks around the NBA this week, it's starting to feel like we're going to get role player trades at the deadline. Stars aren't available. First-round picks aren't getting moved at the moment. No one wants more 2024 firsts. No, we have so many, though.
We have so many. Please take them off our hands.
Why don't they want ours? Come on.
Hey, the draft's not so bad. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. There are some guys that are mocked in the first round that I'm like, boy.
I mean, you would think that, especially some of these teams who are going to be over the second apron, like just getting a first would be such a thrill.
Yeah.
Just to have a guy on cost-controlled contract, but
hey,
no one wants them. Get them away.
Get them away from here. Something else I said after that Thunder game last night was get it away from here. The Thunder lost to the Jazz, 117 to 124. It was a pretty interesting game. The Thunder had control really like midway through the third, and then the Jazz turned on the Jets and locked the Thunder down. And then OKC had to kind of fight back to get it in. And it felt like for a minute there the Thunder were going to win, but then the shot making down the stretch from Utah was really, really good. And the Thunder, not so much.
Yeah, it was a weird game because I didn't get to start watching it till later. And so I saw that they were up by when I checked the score the last time, it was 6 minutes left in the third quarter and they were up by 12. So I was like, oh, things must be going pretty well. And then I started from the beginning of the game. And watching it, in the moment, it felt like it was under control. But then when you step back, it was like, man, this is just because they're making threes. Like they're not getting anything else going in their offense. And they end up shooting, over 50% from three. But I was looking at some of the stats and they only took 20% of their shots at the rim, which is super low for them.
Yeah,
I think
really
normally it's 33%. And they weren't getting to the line a ton. And it was really just all these threes. And in the moment, it was amazing. In that third quarter stretch when it was Chet was hitting every single Mike Muscala three, as I would like to call them, because why is Chet's as open as Mike Muscala was back in the day? But he was hitting every one of those, and then J-Dub just started hitting everything.
That was really good during that stretch. Yeah.
And you're like, how are the Jazz even going to come back from this? This is incredible. When they're this hot, because they were doing such a good job of loading up on Shea, and I felt like it wasn't like a turning point, but it was just kind of like the heat check moment was when it was basically a reverse play where now it was Chet passing back out to Shea, and then Shea hit the three. And you're like, okay, well, we have to win this game. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And then once those threes dried up, because I think they missed their last five or something, it was just there wasn't anything else left offensively. And I think Mark said something to the effect of they had much more sustainable ways to get offense in that game. Which felt like the story of that game. It was the Thunder can get threes whenever they want. And if they make them at 50% clip, they're probably going to keep this game close, but they can't do a lot else right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, to me, it did come down to at the end of the game, who's making shots. And in the fourth quarter, it was Utah. And I don't have a ton of takeaways from this game, to be honest. I mean, it just kind of, it is what it is kind of thing. I mean, they shot 55% from the field in the fourth quarter. The Thunder shot 31% from the field in the fourth quarter.
One of the things that came up to me after looking at Cleaning Glass that I didn't feel watching the game live was how poor OKC was in transition. The Jazz had 17 turnovers, which is a lot. So the Thunder were generating turnovers. They only scored 10 points off of those turnovers. They only had 5 fast break points. On cleaning the glass, they have a stat called points per play, and this is points per transition play. Okay.
Yeah.
44.4 points per 100 possessions, which is in the first percentile for
Yeah.
transition plays.
Yeah.
So they were turning the ball over, or getting the ball turned over in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
but they were not like generating a lot out of that.
Yeah.
And that's a huge issue when, like, in the half court setting, you're not really getting to the rim like you usually would. You need to score some easy points, and they just weren't really getting easy points outside of those threes, which did look easy last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. John Collins was awesome last night. He was 4 of 4 in the fourth quarter. Markkinen was 2 of 2. On like not easy shots either. There was this up and under play that John Collins had where J-Dub's like right there, right at the rim. And Collins like goes up and under and like has this insane layup. I mean, he was really good. And
The I I don't in the past, I haven't felt the Jazz's size, when they're on offense
Mhm.
as much. Like,
Mm,
defensively, yeah, like Walker Kessler around the rim, like, you're feeling that.
sure.
But when they're on offense, in the past games, I just haven't felt that way, and last night, it just felt like when they got around the rim, like, they were going to score. And I don't say this about many players, but it did not feel like OKC had a great option for Markkanen. Like,
He's just really
and
so tall.
he's so tall, but even, like, when he was matched up with Chet, like, he was pushing Chet out of the way under the
Yeah.
basket, and then he'd be matched up with, like, Shea or J-Dub, and he could just shoot over top of him.
Mhm.
And I just kept wondering, like, who's the guy who's gonna be able to guard this guy at all, like, to make it hard on him? He was so good. Part of it was just he just had an awesome game, but
Mhm.
he was a really tough matchup for OKC.
Yeah, he was 8 of 10 in the second half.
Yeah, that's
He had
crazy.
20.
Yeah, and John
Yeah.
Collins, you mentioned him, like, it felt like anything around the basket, he
Oh,
was gonna finish.
yeah.
They ended up shooting 83% at the rim against
Yeah.
OKC,
Yeah,
which is
that's a
very good.
problem. That's a problem. Some
Yeah.
of it was like like the Thunder do look tired to me. They had the double overtime game on Sunday. Like there were times during that game where it was like, oh, like they don't really seem to have their legs. It's like you're at altitude. I don't know.
Well, you wonder if that's why in the moment it didn't feel this way, but after the game you look at it and it's like, well, I wonder if they were just settling for a lot of those threes. Because in the moment you're like, these are great shots. Like they're
Yeah.
generating wide open shots. Why wouldn't you take them? But it came at the expense of them just not really figuring out how to like solve Utah's zone, for instance.
Hmm.
Andy Larson put up a stat last night, which I thought was so funny. So Jazz half court man defense tonight versus OKC had 129 defensive rating. Not good.
Yeah,
Jazz half court zone defense tonight against OKC, 53 defensive rating.
that checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, and a lot of people are. I mean, my mentions were just aflame last night. Like,
no.
I mean, just people don't know how to handle losses. Like, people don't know. It's funny. People don't know how to handle losses very well at all. And like, people are blaming Josh Giddey for the loss. And first of all, I'm like, come on. Like, I know Josh wasn't great last night, but like, he's not. Like, is he the only reason that they lost this game last night? No. Like, he's not the only reason they lost this game last night. Um, but also like that kind of game that we like talked about where it's just like, hey, the three ball is going to save us. Of course, that's not going to be a game where he's going to be like crazy effective. Like he clanked that three in the corner. Like I get it. And defensively, there were moments where he wasn't great, but
yeah, the only criticism I would have of Giddy was just that I don't feel like he should be playing it those like final 5 minutes because you know that like the opposing defense is going to be better in those
yeah,
final 5 minutes. Like everyone's locking down. And I just don't really feel like if he's going to have a great game, it's going to be in those moments. Now, to his credit, I mean, he was good in the previous game.
yeah,
And he played a huge role in that when J-Dub was out. But part of that was that he was able to play more of his game. Like he
that's
was
exactly
able,
right. That's exactly
and so now you have J-Dub back, who's,
right.
soaking up a ton of possessions, taking 18 shots, and it
Uh-huh.
pushes Josh back into that complementary role. And
Mhm.
in that role, I just don't think you can have him out there at the end of games.
Yeah.
Um,
It
so
makes it really difficult on Josh when J-Dub is there. And I think it's gonna be on the coaching staff to figure it out, like, to figure out how to get them in there because obviously Josh still is a valuable player, and we saw it on Sunday. Like, when Dub was out, they needed another playmaker, you know?
yeah,
And I think they want to learn how to play with multiple playmakers out there and for it to work. And I get it. Like, I totally get it. It has not looked good. Like, no one can sit here and say, this has been amazing this season. Like, obviously, the season itself has been amazing. It's been unbelievable. But the one getting left out, and Josh even talked about this after the game on Sunday, is that the sacrifices that have been made this season have mostly been from Josh's side, where he's basically he's been turned into like a 3-and-D player, and he is the two things he's worst at. And of course he's going to look bad. Like any player that's being asked to, hey, the things you're going to do the most are the two things that you're really not that good at. Like, of course he's not going to look good. But then when he gets put in position to actually do the things that he's good at, you're like, oh, like there he is. That's kind of how it felt on Sunday. And it's on the coaching staff and it's on the team to like figure out a way for it to work with Josh. I don't think Josh is getting traded this week. So like anybody that's like calling for Josh to be traded this week, I think you can hang that up because that's not going to happen. And so like now, because I don't believe that's going to happen, they have to figure out how to make it work with them. And we also have to like readjust our brains a little bit because it feels like, oh my gosh, they're, the second seed, the first seed. When you do this and you do that, they're still by like metrics of players being, the minutes that are being played, the youngest team in the NBA. And the general manager of this team is Sam Presti, who is like very process oriented and is not going to jump to conclusions even after just one season of things not looking great. And so it's going to be on the coaching staff and the team to figure out how to make it work. And maybe ultimately it won't work. I'm not sitting here saying that like he's going to be the thing that's going to completely unlock everything. But I also think like as fans of the team that understand, that this is going to be more of a process driven thing and not just a, hey, 30 games haven't looked good, we're going to go ahead and flip things like that. We know that's not going to happen. Like we know that's not the way this is going to go. That
I get that, but in my mind, like to me, it still feels inevitable. Like it feels like we already know what the answer is, and we're just waiting
I
for what reason
I
I'm still unsure.
I agree with that to a degree. I just wouldn't expect the team to
Oh,
feel
I
that
don't.
way.
Yeah, I don't. I'm with you there. Like I don't think the team is going to make that sort of move either. And the one thing I will say is that I do think there's a lot of fans who think that um, Josh has like zero trade value, and I think that is it's easy to feel that way when he has stretches like he's had this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think other teams are smart enough to recognize that like he is not in a great position for him right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have games like you had in the previous game against Toronto, like you remember like, oh yeah, this is kind of like what it was like
Mm-hmm.
last year when he had to play a much bigger role. And there are teams around the league like that. I mean, the team I always think about is Brooklyn. Like,
Yeah.
forget Ben Simmons. I'm not including him because obviously they would be a terrible pairing. But like a team that has a lot of 3-and-D guys on the team,
Yeah.
you slot Josh Giddey into that, he's going to look 10 times, 100 times better on that team than he does on the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Without a doubt.
And I think the Nets are not like dumb enough to just look at how he's playing this year and say, oh yeah, we play him that way too. And so he doesn't have any value to us. Like I do think he's still going to hold value. Like these other teams aren't stupid. Like we look at teams around the league and see players who we think aren't being played in the right situation. And we value them so much higher than the teams of that own fan base. Like we do this every year. And so I think that same sort of thing is going on with Giddey. So I don't think even if they don't trade him, I still think he will hold some value this summer
Mm-hmm.
if they decide to make a move then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just the playoffs are going to be even harder going to be so much harder than any of this,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to be so much more like drilling down into the weaknesses of this team.
Yeah.
And so your mentions, Andrew, I just say get ready, man. You might want to put them on mute once we get to the playoffs,
I
because
was texting with Fred Katz last time. He was like, "Why do you have your mentions on?" It's like, you need to turn those off. Like, that's probably good advice.
yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, like, thinking ahead to tomorrow, it doesn't even feel like the trade deadline's tomorrow, but it is tomorrow.
It doesn't feel like it's tomorrow. All of this to just say, like, don't like there's a lot of like trade Giddey, and there's even like the Andrew Gay stuff that happened last week, and
Yeah.
like there's some. I mean, it's interesting because like Andrew Gaze is obviously close with Josh and with like his dad, like those are definitely facts. However, the Australian media is so interesting because they're way more loose with what they say than like American media. And I think like,
Yeah.
that's like a piece of the puzzle there with this. And I also just think like it's obviously been a really hard season for Josh.
Oh,
And
I
like,
don't think anything that Andrew Gay said was anything we haven't said.
yeah, it's nothing we haven't said or thought. But I
Right.
also just want people to like understand that like it doesn't mean that like a trade is going to happen. Is all I really, because I think some people took that as like, oh, like is something going to happen? And like I believe the answer is no.
Yeah.
Which is probably not surprising to most people, but I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Well, and that's why thinking ahead to tomorrow is why I think it is so important that they do make some kind of deal just for a rotation level player,
For a
because
big wing rotation level player that can take Josh's place in a series where
exactly.
he inevitably doesn't look great. And like
Yeah.
I think there could be series where Josh could be very helpful, and I think there are series like, and we've talked about this, where it's like a very can't play canter type of situation. Hopefully, hopefully Mark doesn't get caught on the bench leaning over to Dave Bliss saying can't play Giddy. But I do think like he can, because of the situation that he's been put in, he's become a very situational player. And I do think like getting a big wing for this year, if you really care about like how far they go this year, then I think getting like a big wing that can play the 3 and the 4 would be the position that I would personally want to fill, just to give you another option. Now maybe Giddy plays great in a series and you don't even have to use that guy very much, like fine. But there's a chance where they just like leave Giddy alone on an island on the perimeter. He clanks his first 4 threes, and then it's like a big now what? And there's guys that you can go to that are on the team now. Like you can go to Aaron Wiggins, and you can go to Kenrich, and you can go to Isaiah Joe Moore. But I would like a bigger player that's maybe a better threat from 3 than Kenrich is. Also, Kenrich hasn't taken a free throw in like a million years, it feels like. And playoffs, like they'll sometimes make those guys beat you from the free throw line, that are like the 50% below. And
Yeah,
that's
Kenrich he had at least 1 3 that was like ridiculously off.
yeah, air ball. And
Like
that's where
strangely off.
and I love Kenrich, but also like we have to remember Kenrich Williams hasn't played a playoff game yet. Like hasn't played
That
in
is wild.
one yet. And so maybe Kenrich is the guy, maybe he is the guy to take his place and it's all good. But to me, I would rather have it as an option on the bench. The last free throw that Kenrich took, this is crazy. December the 6th against
December
Houston.
6th.
He had 2 free throws against Houston and missed both of them. His last made free throw, November 30th against the Lakers. He was 1 of 2. Isn't that wild?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're so hyper focused on whether Giddy's going to be playable or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, if a team starts fouling Kenrich, like Kenrich Williams, the guy who we all think of as like, yeah, he's locked into the playoff rotation. If a team starts fouling him, like he legitimately might not be playable in the playoffs because of his free throw shooting, um, which
Yeah.
is scary to think because yes,
You know
we
what
do have
he is
other
from
guys.
free throw line this season? Do you know what he is? Do you have it dialed up?
I don't like what
Show
percentage he
you
is.
like I can show you with all the fingers I have.
Okay, okay,
3 of 10 this
3 of
season.
10,
3
30%.
of 10. I can show you with all my fingers. I can show you with all of my fingers also this
Oh yeah,
YouTube.
for our YouTube listeners, StreamYard has added new functionality where if you do certain hand gestures, it will do something cool behind you. And right now, Andrew is doing double thumbs up, and there are fireworks going on behind him. Pretty cool. Now
Double
he's
rock
doing rock on, and there are lights behind him, strobe lights.
on.
So
Yeah.
tune in to YouTube.
Hey, it's awesome. Um, any players that you're like, oh my gosh, this is the guy that I would want the Thunder to trade for tomorrow at the trade deadline, and who I'd like to see them incorporate on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks.
Wow. Loaded question, Andrew.
Loaded question.
Oh, you know, I don't know if I have an answer for you, especially an interesting answer. But I will say, after your Zach Lowe pod, he was talking about PJ Washington. I was doing a little bit of a deeper dive on PJ Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and then last night I was listening to Ball, and they Trill was talking about PJ Washington. He was asking his Charlotte friend, like,
Mm-hmm.
is he actually good? Like, what is this? And his friend was some of the things his friend said was like, he's a really bad decision maker. There's multiple times per game where you'll have like record scratch moments with him. He was just started listing off all these things, and all of them sounded
Like the
so
most,
anti Thunder.
yeah, the most unthundery guy ever.
Yeah, and so I was like, man, I mean, I didn't necessarily know any of that because I'm not watching the Hornets night to night. And yes, he's on my fantasy team, but I only see the box scores.
Right.
But yeah, everything he was describing, it was like he doesn't actually sound like a very thundery player.
I know.
So I can't
That's what's
say I'm in
that,
on that.
that's what's tough is that I don't think they're willing to sacrifice play style just because like there's like a good role player available. Like I think they need to fit the way they play,
Yeah,
which
PJ Washington isn't good enough to like change the way you play. There are players like that,
yeah,
but he's not one
yes.
of them.
Yeah, there are players and there may come a day where it's like, hey, this guy's good enough for us to kind of rethink the the vision for that we want, you know.
Like
And
if you suddenly plopped Rudy Gobert on this team, they would play Rudy Gobert.
I
They
mean
would.
you would have to.
They'd have to drastically change how they play, but they would do it because it's Rudy Gobert.
I even think that, um, like if Mikal Bridges became available and the Thunder were very interested, like he would change the way they play a little bit. Like it would become like the Thunder have been more they've had more isolation this year than I think that maybe they want. I don't know that. Um, but to me, like ISO isn't like the vision for this team. I think they've had more ISO plays than I think you would want. But I think if you plot Mikal on this team, I think that would be fine. Like to continue to like
Yeah.
lean in that direction. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously the guy that I've been kind of clamoring for a while, and I just don't know if they even want to trade him is Kelly Olynyk, who we saw last night, who like looked really good off the bench for the Jazz.
Yeah.
And he is a decision maker. He is big. He's not the 3-4 that I'm talking about, but obviously he'd be a backup center and can play the 4 as well. Like you can feel comfortable playing him next to Chet. And that's where you could have these like jumbo lineups, or if you are playing like the Timberwolves or somebody like that, like you
Yeah.
could feel like you could throw him in there for Giddy and he plays the 4 for you, or Chet plays the 4, or whatever you want to call it. And his decision making makes it like, oh, like they can just still play the same way. I mean, he had 10, 4, and 7 last night. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Like that's the kind of guy I think that you would want for this team. And he, there are games where I'm watching and I'm like, oh, like Jay Will can fill this role. And there's other games like last night where it's like, The playoffs are just different. Like, I just don't know, because Jay Will does a lot of the things you would want, and he does like some of the Kelly Olynyk kind of stuff. It's just like not quite there yet. And the reason
Yeah.
I like Kelly too is like he's an expiring contract. If it works great and you want to keep him around, he probably wouldn't be terribly expensive. But then if he walks, then like you do have Jay Will still like developing in the background that you still feel good about. Like I still feel good about Jay Will's future. It's just like, how much are you willing to sacrifice in order to win now is kind of the question. Like, are you willing to sacrifice development? Are you willing to sacrifice, picks? In which, like we talked about it earlier, like I don't know if other teams want these 24 firsts, but to me, I'm like, trade them all. like I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really care that much about the 24 picks. I mean, maybe I would keep Houston's. And we don't know what they're going to do at the deadline, but Fred VanVleet's out. They dropped into the game last night. That if you could get a pick between like 9 and 12, like we'll keep that, and like maybe you can get somebody in that position. Because like right now, I think it's like the 10th pick, which see, this is another reason why you could just let Olynyk walk. Is like Kyle Filipowski is the guy that Tankathon has in the 10th spot, which I think is like one of like the more perfect thundery dudes in this draft that I think could be very similar to Olynyk. He's actually even, I think, a little bit taller than Olynyk. But can pass, can shoot, can like do all the things that you'd want in a Thunder big. So I wouldn't trade that one, but the Jazz pick, I'm kind of whatever. And the Thunder zone pick, I'm very much whatever on that. So
Yeah, I'm happy to give up developmental minutes. I just at some point it's like, how much can I really get excited about developing like the 10th man
yeah,
or the 11th man or 12th man
I hear you.
on the like number 1 seed in the West? I know they're not number 1 anymore. Shout out to the Clippers. Good Lord.
They've been really good. They've been a good basketball team.
It's been a while since I've seen a team shoot up over the course of like 2 months from where they were losing
Especially
6 in a row
especially
to
in this West. That's like,
yeah.
have you looked at the rankings this morning?
Yeah, all the teams at 2 are tied. 35 and
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, it's like crazy. Like 35 and 16, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. But yeah,
Yeah, you think about last year, Nuggets had the best record. I think they had like 54 wins or something.
Mhm.
And all of these teams could potentially pass that. All 4 of these teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
3 and
okay.
25. Yeah.
A few more things thinking about last night.
Mhm.
One, we should mention probably Usman Jang's best minutes of the season
Hey,
in that Utah game.
this was loose.
Deuce was loose. He hit his threes. He had a nice little transition play
Mhm.
where he hit a floater. I thought he was good defensively. He had that really nice, almost like a barely low effort, but not on his, like he just didn't need to do a lot to block that Keontae George shot.
Right.
Like Keontae George just thought he could blow by him. And then when Oos just slid perfectly with him, all he had to do was like barely lift his hand to block his shot. Yeah, he was great in his minutes. So shout out to him.
Yeah.
And then also just big picture, like Aaron Wiggins over this last stretch feels like he has become appreciated in the way that the Wiggins Hive would have wanted. I was looking through their first 38 games, he averaged 12 minutes per night.
Mhm.
And just through these last 12 games, he's up around 20 minutes per game. And obviously some of those games are with Isaiah Joe, so it's not just because Isaiah Joe is out. In fact, he only played 17 minutes last night. But it does feel like he is finally, now I'm going to say this and we'll go back to like DNPs and 7 minutes a night, finally has like secured his spot in the rotation, and deservedly so. I mean, he's having a great season.
He's been very
statistically for a player, like, he's probably the 8th or 9th man on this team. and he's coming in shooting 52% from three.
Yeah. His shooting splits 58, 52, 73.
Yeah, it's just nice that this has finally happened. This is exciting. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So we have another option there. It feels like Mark is
Mm.
finally ready to commit to Wiggins, which is
Mhm.
great. And then I'm happy to see those type of Oos minutes. I mean, listen, they're going to play him. They want to see what they have. He's
Yeah.
still played fewer than 1,000 minutes in the NBA. Those type of minutes where it's like first and second quarter, you get him in there for a little while. If he has nights like that, I know it's because he hit his threes, but even separate from the threes, I thought he looked much better. He did not look nearly as lost as he has in previous games.
Yeah. It was a good Oos game. I remain a little skeptical about Oos,
Oh,
but
I'm very skeptical about Oos, but when he has a nice game, I feel like I should point it out.
yeah. Yeah, no, he played great. He played great. And if that's who he becomes, like, wow, awesome. Not that he has to make 100% of his shots, but like is going to shoot better than he has this season,
Yeah,
overall. Like, great. Like he needs to if he's going to be an NBA player. He needs to
yeah,
be better. He's 33% from three, 46% from the field. Like he has to be better than that. And, you know, if he
man,
is, that's great.
the Jazz are so. I don't know if the word's frustrating. It's just you look at their roster, Andrew,
Hmm.
and then you watch that game last night, and it just feels like two different teams. It's like, how is this team that I'm looking at on Basketball Reference that same team that we played last night? Because even a player like Keontae George, he's shooting like 38% from the field this season,
Yeah. He's a
and
chucker.
like they just have so many guys on their team that I'm personally not excited about. And then they'll play like how many minutes did Lucas Samanic get last night? And he just kept turning the ball over on all these unforced errors.
Yeah.
They just have so many guys in their rotation that I do not like really.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yet,
they have these like throwaway guys that were lottery picks that you just think are like, oh, their career's done. Like whatever. Like they're
yeah,
not
that
they're
you've
not
given up
back,
on. Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know, Colin Sexton and John Collins and Chris Dunn, all these guys. I mean, Kelly Olynyk, as much as we like him, like he was a lotto pick and hasn't really panned out
yeah,
either. Like they just have all these dudes. I mean, even Markkanen was kind of that guy before he got to Utah, whereas like he
yeah.
had a good season in Cleveland, but it kind of bounced around before then. And it's like he's settled in. Like they obviously have like a really good team culture, and like their coaching staff is really good. And
Yeah,
yeah, even like Jordan Clarkson, like they have this like cast of characters that it's like, how are they good? Like how are they beating teams? How are they,
because they
you know,
feel like watching them specifically against the Thunder, like it feels like a good matchup.
hmm
Like these teams, this is a good matchup back and forth. Like they have some strengths and weaknesses. Like I'm almost starting to think of it like what would this be like in the playoffs because they do propose some challenges. But at the
hmm
same time, it's like, man, I'm talking about a team starting Chris Dunn, and
I
I'm
know, I know, I know.
but
And he
he
was
was. I mean,
awesome.
he
He was
was awesome, and outside of him, like they really don't they
yep,
don't have a ton of players that can guard
yeah,
Shea and J Dub.
yeah,
And so, especially like at the end of that first quarter when Shea was just like going off,
yeah.
um,
Ridiculous.
like when Chris Dunn isn't in there, I was like, I don't think they have like a ton of answers for either of these guys. But
Yeah.
then you put Dunn back in, and yeah, he was. I mean, Shea still had a great game,
hmm
but you felt Chris Dunn in a way that you did not feel the other Jazz defenders.
Yeah. Well, Chris Dunn felt Shea too in the almost highlight of the game where Shea just like absolutely dropped him.
Yeah, yeah, they need to
That
make
was
it.
that was pretty sweet.
You gotta make him, Andrew.
You got to make that one. I mean, he had all the space. It was a wide open jumper. Okay, let's take a quick break. We come back. We're going to do Thunder trade value tiers. And we're back after that quick break. Al, Because there's not a significant amount of scuttlebutt out there, I thought we
Painful.
could go through our Thunder trade value tiers. We did this last year, and we had you gave me 7 tiers. They were
Okay.
superstar package, which really was just Shea,
Yeah.
multiple high quality firsts, which included in that tier Chet, J Dub, and Giddy. The third
Okay.
tier is high quality firsts or multiple protected firsts, which you put Dort and Oos in that one.
Ooh. Okay.
Category 4 is a protected first, and you had Kenrich and Isaiah Joe in that category. That still
Yeah.
feels pretty good. Category 5 is multiple good seconds. You
Mhm.
had Poku, JRE, and
Ooh.
Trey Mann
Whoa, slow
in that one.
down. Uh-huh.
And category 6 is hoping for a decent second. You had Wiggins and Moose
Oh my God.
in that one. And then category 7 is good luck getting a decent second. And you had Jay Will, Bays, Lindy, and Eugene Omarui.
Okay. Didn't they get a second for Bays? Did they end up getting a second in that deal?
Yeah, they ended up excuse me. They ended up getting a second also because they took back Dario's contract, which saved them some.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, was it
Okay.
was it Bays or was it the taking back the money? I think it was
It
taking
was
back.
a 2029 second.
Can't wait. I'm on pins
Can't
and
wait.
needles for that second.
Could be valuable.
Literally can't wait.
Okay,
Okay.
so start at the bottom. Tell me what the bottom category is, and we'll just start
Good
there.
luck getting a decent second.
All right. Good luck getting a decent second.
Who are we
Obviously
putting?
the two-way guys, we'll throw them in there.
Yeah.
Poku is going to be in there.
Yeah.
Um,
Poku. Who would you put at the
uh,
bottom? Like, who would you put at the absolute bottom?
Poku. Who else would it be?
Yeah, probably Poku. Sar?
He's two-way though.
He's two-way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poku.
So I'll stop there. I would consider Trey, but I think you could maybe get
I think you
somebody would
could
give you a
get
second.
hoping. I think you could put him in the hoping for a decent second.
Yes, hoping for a decent. Okay, so that's the first category. So two ways and
Poku,
Poku.
Poku, Sar, Lindy, Keontae Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's cool and stuff, but come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Hoping for a decent second. I think Trey Mann.
Trey Mann for sure, and I would actually say Jay Will. I don't think a team's giving you a good, like, definitely giving you a good second for Jay Will. I think you're hoping for a good second.
Yeah. I also don't think they'll trade him, but I think I think it's fair. But I don't know.
Yeah, this isn't like if a team came and offered them a good second, are they trading Jay Will? It's just
Yeah.
like what could you realistically get for him if you wanted
Yeah.
to trade for him? Because I don't think they would trade him for just a good second. Who cares? We don't want seconds.
Yeah, they have 20 of
Yeah, we have 20.
20 of them. It's just like doesn't.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is more like what could you get if you wanted to trade them for some reason.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I would have Jay Will and Trey Mann in that category, and probably it. Okay, next.
Multiple good seconds.
Okay, I'd put Oos in there.
Yeah.
Oos.
He's
Oos.
it's really, I mean, last night was good. I don't think that pushes him into a protected first though.
Yeah, I would put Aaron Wiggins there. I just don't think a team's going to give you a first round pick for Aaron Wiggins, as much as
Teams
I
are
like him.
Stupid if that's what they think.
I don't disagree,
Well,
but I just
not even like a top 20 protected first.
no.
Not even not even in this draft.
Think about who gets traded for first. Like, no team is trading for OKC's 10th man who's playing 20 minutes a night and giving up a first. They're just not doing it.
Jay Crowder got 5 seconds last year.
I know, but like firsts are so like you look at a team like Detroit, like they literally have one first to trade.
It's true.
You know, like they're not trading it for Aaron Wiggins. They have to get something better than Aaron Wiggins for that
Make
first.
him better. It would make him better.
It would. He'd make them very better, very much better.
Very, very better.
Okay, so that would I put who did I put? Aaron Wiggins and Oos, Anyone for multiple seconds?
God, it does it just not feel wrong to put Wiggins and Oos in the same category? Like, doesn't that just feel wrong?
No, I mean it's different reasons. I mean, Oos is like, the former lottery pick that, maybe there's still some upside there.
Just like the Oos draft stock is falling and the Wiggins is rising, and they're like,
Yes, we're
this
having
is
a
where they're like
crossover point.
where they're converging right now.
Yeah, maybe by next season,
Really,
I would feel more comfortable that a team would want to give up a first for either of those guys. But I just don't think right now a team is spending assets. And that's the other thing about these firsts. And I thought Zach Lowe made a very good point that I hadn't really thought through. But like, if you're the Wizards and you have Kyle Kuzma, why trade him now when all these teams that want to trade for him have maybe one first available to them? When you could just wait till this summer when all these teams will have like 2 or 3 firsts available to them. And so teams right now, like they don't have a lot of firsts. So unless you're strictly speaking about teams like Utah or Houston or Brooklyn who have excess firsts, I guess
yeah,
Brooklyn doesn't really have excess firsts, but they have, other firsts.
they have other firsts. Yeah,
I think for most teams, like it is a huge decision to give up a first round pick for a player. And I
yeah.
just do not think Wiggins and Oos are worthy of that at that level for
I mean,
other
I agree
teams.
with Oos. I think Wiggins could be on his way.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm
I mean,
going to leave him there for the
yeah,
time being.
I don't know. I mean, he shoots it. Great off ball.
Andrew, they were playing him 12 minutes a game like 12 games ago. Even OKC didn't value him. And now you're saying that other teams are?
That's their fault.
I know that's their fault. I've been complaining about it forever.
I don't
You're
know.
not getting a first for Aaron Wiggins. Come on.
I just have a pit in my stomach putting he and Oos in the same category. That's all.
Depending on what type of Thunder fan you're talking to, I think some fans would be totally in agreement, and they would actually put both of them in a higher tier.
Okay. I can be okay. I can move forward now.
Hey, this isn't about I would give up a lottery guaranteed first. It wouldn't be lottery protected, it'd be lottery guaranteed.
In this draft, I would for sure. If like some of these dudes end up being as good as Aaron Wiggins, like they'll just be elated.
But you even you know what? For my proof, when you asked Zach Lowe about Aaron Wiggins, did it sound like he was that excited about Aaron Wiggins? No.
No,
he poo-pooed on it basically.
That just shows us Zach Lowe's knowledge about Aaron Wiggins.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think that everyone, like if I go on another pod and start talking about Aaron Wiggins, they're like, who are you talking about? And why are you talking about him?
Hey, that's just people that don't watch the Thunder.
I know. He's not at that level yet. Okay, what's the next category?
The next category is a protected first.
Protected first. So I don't know if this is true, and maybe I should have put Micic in the previous category. And maybe I should actually. Should Micic be multiple seconds?
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting a protected.
He's had some fun moments.
Yeah.
There's definitely been moments where it's like, oh no. Like he's not quite playing. I mean, he's shooting 40% from the field and 24% from three.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of justification for having him higher than that.
Okay.
He's good passer.
He's got name recognition. Everyone knows Micic.
He's 30 years old. He's averaging 3 points, 0.8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists.
Andrew, tell me what he's averaging per 48. Okay, get real.
Per 48? What about per 100 possessions, bro? Per 100 possessions. 13 points, 3 rebounds, 10 assists.
Awesome. Shooting 41% from the field. No, I asked per 48 because there was a...
Hey, give Wiggins 100 possessions. This is what's going to happen. 21 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 1.6 steals.
Wow.
Per 100 possessions, Shea. 43, 8, and 9. 3 steals and a block.
Interesting.
God, that's...
I said per 48 because there was some stat that popped up on the Jazz broadcast yesterday. Like players averaging a triple-double per 48.
Oh
and
my gosh.
it's like LeBron, Luka, Jokic, and Kelly Olynyk.
It's like the biggest eye roll ever. What does that even do for anybody?
Did a lot for me. I said, "Ooh, you got to get that guy." I
I
didn't
mean,
know
no,
he did
I liked
that.
him before then, but let's skew the stats in some way to make this look good. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, and let's sit Chet and play Kelly 48 minutes a game, and we'll have our next Russ.
Get the man
Boom.
to teach Chet how to block out for Kelly Olynyk so that he can get his triple doubles.
Okay, next category is protected first. I think for this one, I'm going to go with Kenrich.
Yeah.
I think you'd get you a protected first. I wonder about Isaiah Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
I value him a lot. He's only cost controlled for one more season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think for the right team, you could maybe get like a solid, or at least a first with upside. You know, kind of how like Golden State's pick that Portland owns. No one was
Yeah.
thinking that was going to be a good pick, but it turns
Right.
out when you have a pick that's top 4 protected, maybe something will happen, and it turns out that it's going to be pretty good.
You're probably not getting a top 4 protected pick for
No,
Isaiah.
you're definitely not getting a top 4 protected pick for Isaiah.
And I love Isaiah Joe, but I think a protected first, like if they got a lottery protected pick for him, you'd be like, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I would say Joe, and I probably would say Dort.
What has made Dort drop for you?
What did I have? What's the next thing up?
High quality first.
Yeah, I just don't. I think I was wearing some blinders. You know, that was a homer. What team is giving up a high quality first for Lou Dort? I just don't.
What in your mind is a high quality first? Like
High quality first is like
quality first.
It has to have significant juice. Like it doesn't have to be unprotected, but like the Jazz pick, top 10 protected, and then it goes down to like top 8 at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a high quality first. It's not amazing first, but it has a little bit of wiggle room.
I mean, I think you absolutely get that in this draft.
Well, in this draft, yeah. I mean, you probably get the first pick. Some team would guarantee it to you. Just take it. We don't want to make the pick.
Dort has just been really good this year. He's been really good, and he's done like all the things that you would hope that he would have done. It's like take less shots, take the right kinds of shots, still be a menace on defense. You know, like his role has ticked down, his minutes have ticked down. The shots are the lowest since his rookie season, and he's shooting 43% from the field, which is a career high, 39% from 3, which is also a career high, obviously, 80% from the free throw line. You know, almost 4 boards, 1.3 assists. He doesn't turn the ball over.
Okay, I thought about this. The Utah pick is a protected first. We're actually in the right category. That shouldn't be considered a high quality first, because what's the difference? We're talking about protected first. Teams protect it to the lottery. So is it that big of a difference from getting a lottery protected versus top 10 protected? I feel like those are protected first. High quality first, it has to be higher than that.
Like top 4 protected.
Yeah. And then you eventually get to unprotected. So I actually feel good about keeping Lou Dort here, because I do think you could get something like a top 10 protected first.
Okay. As long as like that is what we're categorizing it. I think that makes sense. Yeah. And
because teams don't really. I mean, we have gotten like a top 20 protected first previously, and we've given out top, but those don't happen that often. Usually, it's like a lottery protected or lower.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if top 10 is part of this category, then I would agree.
Okay, we'll make top 10 the cutoff. Honestly, like top 20 and above, those should be like fake first. You should have like a fake first category. Maybe you could get a fake first for Kenrich Williams.
Yeah, I think it would be lottery or top 20. Or he also just feels like he would be like the Jay Crowder, like multiple seconds kind of guy. If
he does,
willing to deal him kind of thing.
I'm realizing we haven't brought up Davis Bertans yet, and instead of going back and putting him in a category, I want people to think that we're still waiting to place him. He's going to be in one of these higher categories, and that I didn't just forget him.
High quality first or multiple protected first is the next category.
Okay. Starting out with Davis. High quality first or multiple protected first. Okay, this is where I would put Giddy now.
Okay.
High quality first, multiple protected first.
Yeah. So he was the guys that were in this category last year. Just review: Oos and Kenrick, or Oos and Dort were in this category. The only two.
Okay, yeah, I think there's a clear, in my mind, a clear difference in value between Giddy and Dort. Even as bad as Giddy's season has gone, I
Yeah.
still think teams are going to value him more.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else? The only other name I would consider would be Kaysen, but I don't know.
You want to put him in multiple high quality first category?
I guess not. Yeah. Okay. So Kaysen and Giddy
I
are
would
in
put
this
Casey
category.
Wallace here. They're all,
Yeah.
and just to be clear, like none of these, like really probably anybody in the first round or first round pick and up category are like not being traded. Like just
Yeah. This is more. This
not
is
on the
but what
table.
you could get if you wanted to.
So I haven't like listened to the pod yet, but I just saw somebody say that like Casey Wallace was in like the top like 70 something in Bill Simmons trade value pod.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's some.
Yeah. And that like Chet and J-Dub were like both in the top 20.
Wow. So what's the next category? And is there a category above that?
Superstar package is number 1, and then 2 is multiple high quality firsts.
It's hard for me to say that all three of the guys aren't in superstar package at this point,
Yeah.
because you're not trading J-Dub for like 2 good firsts. Like, you're just not doing it. Like, if
No.
a team came and offered you 2 top 4 protected future firsts for J-Dub, like, there's no way you would do it. Like, it would have to be multiple picks, multiple swaps. Why would you give up a player like that at his age on that contract? Same with Chet. Like, I just don't think you would. So I think they all three need to be now in superstar package.
Yeah, I don't know that we have a multiple high quality first guy anymore, but now there are like
Well,
3
that's
star package
Davis.
That's where Davis fits in.
That's where we're going to put Davis.
Davis, because of his contract, like maybe you could put him in the Oos, Wiggins, Micic category, but just because of his contract, is that fair?
Well, I don't. Why do people think his contract is so valuable? You still have to pay $5 million next year. It's not expiring.
It's not expiring, but you can. I mean, you could shed a lot of salary.
Yeah, but like, are people talking about Evan Fournier that way? Would you ever give up a high second for Evan Fournier?
Okay, hoping for a decent second with Trey Mann.
Yeah, you're hoping that someone values it that way.
I have hope.
The reality is that like the value you're getting back is because you're taking back that team's contract that they don't want. That extends
Yeah,
out
like
further.
that's a part of like the leverage play.
Yeah,
Is that
but
we are saving you money, and in return, we're going to take back money that goes into next season.
It's kind of like the Baisley conversations. Like, are you getting that second because of Baisley, or are you getting it because you're taking back the other team's contract?
like that's the equation. That's what
Yeah.
I meant. Yeah,
I just don't want to give. I don't want to give Davis too much credit. Okay, it's not like his contract is so amazing.
You're just playing with only 9 fingers, and you don't want to give the guy any credit.
I don't. I'm done, Davis. Hey, Andrew, percent chance Davis is still on this team tomorrow. Percent chance.
On the team?
Yeah.
26% chance he's still on the team.
Percent chance Poku is still on this team tomorrow.
12% chance.
Wow. So we may have just seen Poku's last game in a Thunder uniform.
Yeah.
Not this game necessarily, but whatever that game was that he did get to play.
Didn't even play. We had a Poku. What I'm trying to remember what game that was. We had a Poku victory Sargar.
It was the Charlotte game. He played 7 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, Charlotte's so bad. Oh my gosh.
They are, but also, man, they've got to feel good about Brandon Miller. He has been on fire. And I know that good stats, bad team, but he's like, at least as a shooter, he feels very legit.
Yeah, defensively, he's really bad right now.
He'll get better.
You gotta hope.
Yeah.
Because like this is definitely a someone has to score the points kind of situation.
It is. And he's still shooting under 50% on his 2-pointers, which was one of the concerns coming into the league.
It was a concern.
But
Yeah, he's looked good. Yeah. I mean, they've done worse in the draft.
they've done much worse. Much, much worse.
Yeah, they've done much worse.
Andrew, how scared are you of Kawhi? Everyone's talking about, is Kawhi going to be the MVP? Now the Clippers are the number 1 seed.
I don't feel that scared, to be honest.
You should be. You should be. It's starting to percolate, Andrew.
I mean,
you know how these journalists are.
I know, there are a lot of like Kawhi freaks out there for sure.
Kawhi freaks. Zach Lowe, he voted for Kawhi in the Russ Harden year.
I know. I mean, he's been very good. There's no doubt about it. He's just not carrying like the same offensive load that some of these other guys are.
No, he's
like,
not.
Like, can you really give? Like, he's been really good, but can you give that guy the MVP in this NBA? You're gonna give a guy that's scoring 24 points per game the MVP?
I don't know, Andrew. I'm just saying, get prepared. Be prepared.
Come on. Also, like, am I supposed to believe that he's going to be, healthy the rest of the season?
I feel like every time you bring that up, you make it more likely that he's going to play every single game and all through the playoffs.
I do that?
Yes. Every time you and Jay bring it up and say, why is Alex so scared of the Clippers? We all know what's going to happen. When you guys do that, you're jinxing yourself, and we're going to get to the end of the season. They're going to have like a 5-game lead in first place and be the clear title favorite.
Just looking at history. And it's the Clippers. I don't know. I just have a hard time like really believing in the Clippers.
Kawhi is
they've got it
right now in EPM.
He's what?
Sixth behind Luka, Jokic, Giannis, Shea, and Embiid.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, man, he needs to be on some MVP balance.
He's been awesome.
If Dallas keeps pooping out of the bed, is that what it is?
Pooping out of the toilet.
Pooping out of the toilet. I would much more want to see Donovan Mitchell in like the 5th spot than Luka. If Dallas keeps playing like this.
Yeah, the Dallas is weird. And they've been dealing with some injuries too.
Because I think Shea, Giannis, Jokic, they're locks. And now Kawhi are locks for top 5 MVP. So it's really just who's going to be the 5th name.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I mean, Luka last night was ridiculous.
Oh, he's great. He's great.
35, 18, and 9. 18 against the Nets.
Plays with a bunch of goobers, though, and that hurts him.
He and Kyrie were awesome against the Nets last night, but also the Nets stink.
They're working their way back to 500 when Luka and Kyrie play together.
Wow.
Maybe they'll get there. Yeah. All right, Andrew, I have to go to the dentist.
Hey, my guy Royce O'Neal, 18 points, 6 boards, 2 assists last night in 32 minutes.
I thought you were about to say per 100 possessions.
Per 100 possessions. Let's talk more about that. All right. Thanks so much for listening to our show. Thanks so much for watching on YouTube. We got a pretty good crowd here on YouTube. Please be sure that you're subscribed. Hit the like button right now, please. Tomorrow is the trade deadline. A couple things on the Athletic NBA Show YouTube page, which you should go subscribe to. I will be breaking down each and every trade that's made, which hopefully there are some, with Dave DeFore. We'll also do an emergency pod here on this show, on this YouTube page. So be sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell. If you want to watch live, if you're listening to this on your pod catcher, please subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell so you know when we go live. You guys have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow, probably tomorrow.